cravings come from. Every behavior has a surface level cravings and a deeper underlying motives. I often have a craving that goes something like this. I want to eat tacos. If you were to ask me why I want to eat tacos, I wouldn't say because I need food to survive. But the truth is, somewhere deep down, I am motivated to eat tacos because I have to eat to survive. The underlying motive is to obtain food and water, even if my specific craving is for a taco. Some of your underlying motives include conserve energy, obtain food and water, find love and reproduce, connect and bond with others, win social acceptance and approval, reduce uncertainty, achieve status and prestige. A craving is just a specified manifestation of a deeper underlying motive. Your brain did not evolve with a desire to smoke cigarette or to check Instagram or to play video games. At the deep level, you simply want to reduce uncertainty and relieve anxiety, to win spatial acceptance and approval, or to achieve status. Look at the nearly any product that is habit forming, and you will see that it does not create a new motivation, but rather latches onto the underlying motives of human nature. Find love and reproduce using Tinder, continue and bond with others browsing Facebook, win social acceptance and approval posting on Instagram, reduce uncertainty searching on Google, achievement, status, and prestige playing video games. Your habits are modern day solution to ancient desires, new versions of old verses. The underlying motive behind human behavior remain the same. The specific habits we perform differ based on the period of history. Here's the powerful part: there are many different ways to address the same underlying motives. One person might learn to reduce stress by smoking a cigarette, another person learn to ease their anxiety by going for a run. Your current habits are not necessarily the best way to solve the problems that you face. They are just the method you learn to use. Once you associate a solution with the problem you need to solve, you keep coming back to it. Habits are all about association. These associations determine whether we predict a habit to be worth repeating or not. As we covered in our discussion of the first law, your brain is continually absorbing information and noticing cues in the environment. Every time you perceive a cue, your brain runs a simulation and makes a prediction about what to do in the next movement. Cue: you notice that the stove is hot. Prediction: if I touch it, I'll get burned, so I should avoid touching it. Q: you see that the traffic light runs green. Prediction: if I step on the gas, I'll make it safely through the intersection and get closer to my destination. So I should step on the gas. You see a cue, categorize it based on past experience, and determine the appropriate response. This will happen in an instant, but it play a crucial role in your habit because every action is preceded by a prediction. Life feels reactive, but it is actually predictive all day long. You are making your best guess of how to act given when you have just seen and what has worked for you in the past. You are endlessly predicting that will happen in the next moment. Our behavior is heavily dependent on these predictions. Put another way, our behavior is heavily dependent on how we interpret the events that happen to us, not necessarily the objective reality of the event themselves. Two people can look at the same cigarette and one feels the urge to smoke while the other is repulsed by the smell. The same cue can spark a good habit or a bad habit depending on your prediction. The cause of your habit is actually the prediction that precedes them. These predictions lead to feel, which is how we typically describe a craving, a feeling, a desire, an urge. Feelings and emotions transform the cues or perceive the prediction we make into a signal that we can apply. They help explain what we are currently sensing. For instance, whether or not you realize it, you are noticing how warm or cold you feel right now. If the temperature drops by 1 degree, you probably want to do anything. If the temperature drops 10 degree, however, you will feel cold and put on another layers of clothing. Feeling cold was the signal that prompt you to act. You have been sensing the cues the entire time, but it is only when you predict that you would be better off in different state that you take action. The craving is a sense that something is missing. It is the desire to change your internal state. When the temperature falls, there is a gap between that your body is currently sensing and what it wants to be sensing. This gap between your current state and your desired state provides a reason to act. Desire is the difference between what where you are now and where you want to be in future. Even in the tiniest action is tinged with the motivation to feel differently than you do in the moment when you blink, eat, or light up or browse social media. What you really want is not a potato chip or a cigarette or a bunch of life. What you really want is to feel different. Your feeling and emotion tell us whether to hold steady in your current state or to make a change. They help us decide the best course of action. Neurologists have discovered that even emotions and feelings are impaired. We actually lose the ability to make decisions. We have no signal of what to pursue and what to avoid. As the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio explained, it is emotion that allow you to mark things as good, bad, or indifferent. To summarize, the specific cravings you feel and habits you perform are really an attempt to address your fundamental underlying motives. Whenever a habit successfully address a motive, you develop a cravings to do it again in time, and you learn to predict that checking social media will help you feel love or that watching YouTube will allow you to forget your fears. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings, and we can use this insight to our advantage rather than to our detriment. How to reprogram your brain to enjoy hard habits. You can make hard habits more attractive if you can learn to associate them with positive experience. Sometimes all you need is a single mindset shift. For instance, we often talk about everything we have to do in a given day. We have to wake up early for work. We have to make another sales call for your business. We have to cook dinner for your family. No, imagine changing for one word. You don't have to. You get to. You get to wake up early for work. You get to make another sales call for your business. You get to leave dinner for your family. You get to cook dinner for your family. By simply changing one word, you shift the way you view each event. You transition from seeing this behavior as burden and turn them into opportunities. The key is that both versions of reality are true. You have to do those things and you also get to do them. We can find evidence for whatever mindset we choose. I once heard a story about a man who used a wheelchair. When asked if it was difficult being confined, he responded, I am not confined to my wheelchair, I am liberated by it. If it wasn't for my wheelchair, I would be bed bound and never able to leave my house. This shift in perspective completely transforms how he lives each day. Reframing your habits to highlight their benefits rather than their drawbacks is a fast and lightweight way to reprogram your mind and make a habit seems more attractive. Exercise. Many people associate exercise with being a challenging task that drains energy and wears you down. And you can just as easily view it as a way to develop skills and build you up. Instead of telling yourself, I need to go run in the morning, say, it's time to build endurance and get fast. Finance. Saving money is often associated with sacrifice. However, you can associate it with freedom rather than limitation. If you realize one simple truth, living below your current means increase your future means. The money you save this month increase your purchasing power next month. Meditation. Anyone who has tried meditation for more than 3 seconds knows how frustrating it can be when the next distraction inevitably pops into your mind. You can transform frustration into delight when you realize that each interruption gives you a chance to practice returning to your breath. Distraction is a good thing because you need distraction to practice meditation. Pre-game jitters. Many people feel anxious before delivering a big presentation or competing in an important event. They experience quicker breathing, a faster heart rate, heightened arousal. If we interpret these feelings negatively, then we feel threatened and tense up. If we interpret these feelings positively, then we can respond with fluidity and grace. You can reframe I am nervous so to I am excited and I am getting an adrenaline rush to help me concrete. These little mindset shifts aren't magic, but they can help change the feelings you associate with a particular habit or situation. If you want to take it a step further, you can create a motivational rituals. You simply practice association. You simply practice associating your habits with something you enjoy, then you can use that cue whenever you need a habit of motivation. For instance, if you always play the same song before having sex, then you will begin to link the music with the act. Whenever you want to get in the mood, just press play. Add Latimore, a boxer and a writer from Pittsburgh, benefited from a similar strategy without knowing it. Odd realization, he wrote, my focus and concentration goes up just by putting my headphone on. While writing, I don't even have to play any music. Without realizing it, he was conditioning himself. In the beginning, he put his headphone on, played some music he enjoyed, and did focus work. After doing it 5, 10, 20 times, putting his headphone on became a cue that he automatically associated with increased focus. The craving followed naturally. Athletes use similar strategies to get themselves in the mind. So, to perform during my baseball career, I developed a specific rituals of stretching and throwing before each game. The whole sequence took about 10 minutes, and I did it the same way every single time. While it physically warmed up to play, more importantly, it put me in the right mental state. I began to associate my pre-game ritual with the feeling competitive and focused. Even if I wasn't motivated beforehand, by the time I was done with my ritual, I was in game mode. You can adapt this strategy for nearly any purpose. Say you want to feel happier in general, find something that makes you truly happy, like petting your dog or taking a bubble bath, and then create a short routine that you perform every time before you do the thing you love. Maybe you take 3 deep breaths and smile. Three Three deep breaths, smile, pat the dog, repeat. Eventually, you will begin to associate this breath and smile routine with being in a good mood. It becomes a cue that means feeling happy. Once established, you can break it out anytime. You need to change your emotional state, stress at work, take 3 deep breath and smile. Said about life, 3 deep breath and smile. Once a habit has been built, the cue can prompt a craving, even if it has little to do with the original situation. The key to finding and fixing the cause of your bad habit is to reframe the association you have about them. It's not easy, but if you can reprogram your prediction, you can transform a hard habit into an attractive one. Chapter summary. The inversion of the second law of behavior change is make it unattractive. Every behavior has a surface level craving and a deeper underlying motive. Your habits are modern day solution to ancient desire. The case of your habit is actually the prediction that precedes them. The prediction leads to a feeling, highlights the benefits of avoiding a bad habit to make it seems unattractive. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings and attractive when we associate them with negative feelings. Create a motivational ritual by doing something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. How to create a good habit. The first law, make it obvious. 1.1, fill out the habit scorecard, write down your current habit to become aware of them. 1.2, use implementation intention, I will behavior at time in location. 1.3, use habit tracking after current habit, I will new habit. 1.4, design your environment, make cues of good habit obvious and visible. The second law, make it attractive. 2.1, use temptation building pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. 2.2, join a culture where your desired behavior is a normal behavior. 2.3, create a motivational ritual, do something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. The third law, make it easy. The fourth law, make it satisfying. How to break a habit. Inversion of the first law, make it invisible. 1.5, reduce exposure, remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment. Inversion of second law, make it unattractive. 2.4, reframe your mindset, highlight the benefits of avoiding your bad habit. Inversion of third law, make it difficult. Inversion of fourth law, make it unsatisfying. The third law, make it easy. Walk slowly but never backward. On the first day of class, Jerry Ulsman, a professor at the University of Florida, divided his film photography student into two groups. Everyone on the left side of the classroom, he explained, would be in the quantity group. They would be graded solely on the amount of work they produce on the final day of class. He would tally the number of photos submitted by each student. 100 photos would rate an A, 90 photos a B, 8 photos C, and so on. Meanwhile, everyone on the right side of the room would be in the quality group. They would be graded only on the excellence of their work. They would only needed to produce one photo during the semester. But to get an A, it had to be a nearly perfect image. At the end of the term, he was surprised to find that all the best photos were produced by the quantity group. During the semester, these students were busy taking photos, experimenting with composition and lighting, testing out various methods in the dark room, and learning from their mistakes. In the process of creating hundreds of photos, they honed their skills. Meanwhile, the quality group sits around speculating about perfection. In the end, they had little to show for their efforts other than unverified theories, one Medicare photo. It is easy to get bogged down trying to find the optimal plan for change, the fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for a side hustle. We are so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to take actions. As Voltaire once wrote, the best is the enemy of the good. The best is the enemy of the good. I referred this as the difference between being in motion and taking action. The two ideas sound similar, but they are not the same. When you are in motion, you are planning and strategizing and learning. Those are all good things, but they don't produce a result. Actions, on the other hand, is a type of behavior that will deliver an outcomes. If I outline 20 ideas for articles, I want to write that motions. If I actually sit down and write an article, that action. If I search for a better diet plan and read a few books on the topic, that motion. If I actually eat a healthy meal, that action. Sometimes motion is useful, but it will never produce an overcome by itself. It doesn't matter how many times you go walk, how many times you go talk to the personal trainer, that motion will never get you in shape. Only the action of working out will get the result you're looking to achieve. If motion doesn't lead to results, why do we do it? Sometimes we do it because we actually need to plan or learn more. But more often than not, we do it because motion allows us to feel like we are making progress without running the risk of failure. Most of us are experts at avoiding criticism. It doesn't feel good to fail or to be judged publicly. So we tend to avoid situation where that might happen, and that is the biggest reason why you slip into motion rather than taking action. You want to delay failure. It's easy to be in motion, convince yourself that you are still making progress. You think I've got conversion going with four potential clients right now. This is good. We are moving in the right direction. Oh, I brainstormed some ideas for that book I want to write. This is coming together. Motions make you feel like you are getting things done, but really you are just preparing to get something done. When preparation becomes a form of procrastination, you need to change something. You don't want to merely be planning, you want to be practicing. If you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repeating, not perfection. You don't need to map out every feature of a new habit, you just need to practice it. This is the first takeaway of the third law. You just need to get your reps in. How long does it actually take to form a new habit? Habit formation is the process by which a behavior becomes progressively more atomic through repetition. The more you repeat an activity, the more the structure of your brain changes to become efficient at that activity. Neuroscientists call this long term potentiation, which refers to the strengthening of connection between neurons is in the brain based on recent patterns of activity. With each repetition, cell-to-cell signaling improve and the neural connections tighten, first described by neurophysiologist Donald Hebb in 1949. This phenomenon is commonly known as Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. Repeating a habit leads to a clear physical change in the brain. In musicians, the cerebellum critical for physical movement like plucking a guitar string or pulling a violin bow is larger than it is in non-musician. Mathematicians, meanwhile, have increased gray matter in the inferior parietal lobe, which play a key role in computation and calculation. Its size is directly correlated with the amount of time spent in the field. The older, the more experienced the mathematician, the greater the increase in gray matter. When scientists analyzed the brains of taxi driver in London, they found that the hippocampus, a region of the brain involved in spatial memory, spatial memory was significantly larger in their subject than in non-taxi driver. Even more fascinating, the hippocampus decrease in size when a driver retire. Like the muscles of the body responding to regular weight training, particular region of the brain adapt as they use and entropy as they are abundant. Of course, the importance of repetition establishing habit was recognized long before neuroscientists began poking around in 1860. The English philosopher George H. Lewis noted in learning to speak a new language, to play on a musical instrument, or to perform unaccustomed movement, great difficulty is felt because the channel through which each sensation has to pass have not become established, but now sooner have frequent repetition cut a pathway than this difficulty vanish. The action becomes so automatic that they can be performed while the mind is otherwise engaged. Both common sense and scientific evidence agree. Repetition is a form of change. Each time you repeat an action, you are activating a particular neural circuit associated with that habit. This means that simply putting in your reps is one of the most critical steps you can take to encoding a new habit. It is why the student who took tons of photos improved their skills while those who merely theorized about perfect photo did not. The group engaged in active practice, the other in passive learning, one in action, the other in motion. All habits follow a similar trajectory from effortful practice to automatic behavior, a process known as automaticity. Automaticity is the ability to perform a behavior without thinking about each step, which occurs when the non conscious mind takes over. It looks something like this: the habit line. Automaticity, habit line, repetition. Figure 11, in the beginning, point A, habit requires a good deal of effort and concentration to perform. After a few repetition, point B, it gets easier but it still requires some conscious attention. With enough practice, point C, the habit becomes more automatic than conscious. Beyond the threshold, the habit line, the behavior can be done more or less without thinking. A new habit has been formed. On the following page, you will see what it looks like when researchers track the levels of automaticity for an actual habit like walking for 10 minutes each day. The shape of these charts, which scientists call learning curves, reveals an important truth about behavior change. Habits form based on frequency, not time. Walking 10 minutes per day. Automaticity, day. Figure 12. This graph shows someone who built the habit of walking for 10 minutes after breakfast each day. Notice that as the repetition increases, so does the automaticity until the behavior is as easy and automaticity as it can be. One of the most common questions that I hear is how long does it take to build a new habit? But what people really should be asking is how many does it take to form a new habit? How many does it take to form a new habit? This is how many repetitions are required to make a habit automaticity. There is something magical about the time passing with regard to habit formation. It doesn't matter if it means 21 day or 30 days or 300 days. What matters is the rate at which you perform the behavior. You could do something twice in 30 days or 200 times if it's the frequency that makes the difference. Your current habits have been internalized over the course of hundreds, if not thousands of repetition. New habit requires the same level of frequency. You need to string together enough successful attempts until the behavior is firmly embedded in your mind and you cross the habit line. In practice, it doesn't really matter how long it takes for a habit to become automatic. When what matters is that you take the actions you need to take to make progress. Whether an action is fully automatic is of less importance. To build a habit, you need to practice it, and the most effective way to make a practice happen is to adhere to the third law of behavior change. Make it easy. The chapter that follow will show you how to do exactly that. Chapter summary. The third law of behavior change is make it easy. The most effective form of learning is practice, not planning. Focus on taking action, not being in motion. Habit formation is the process by which a behavior becomes progressively more automatic through repetition. The amount of time you have been performing a habit is not as important as the number of times you have performed it. Chapter 12, the law of least effort. In his award-winning book, Guns, Germs and Steel, anthropologist and biologist Jared Diamond points out a simple fact: different continents have different shapes. At first glance, this statement seems rather obvious and unimportant, but it turns out to have a profound impact on human behavior. The primary axis of the American runs from north to south, that is, the landmass of North and South America tends to be tall and thin rather than wide and fat. The same is generally true for Africa. Meanwhile, the landmass that make up Europe, Asia, and Middle East is the opposite. This massive stretch of land tends to be more east-west in shape. According to Diamond, this difference in shape played a significant role in the spread of agriculture over the centuries. When agriculture begins to spread around the globe, farmers had an easier time spending along east-west routes than along north-south ones. This is because location along the same latitude generally share similar climates, amounts of sunlight and rainfall, and changes in season. These factors allowed farmers in Europe and Asia to domesticate a few crops and grow them along the entire stretch of land from France to China. The shape of human behavior: east-west origin, north-south orientation. Figure 13, the primary axis of Europe and Asia is east-west. The primary axis of America and Africa is north-south. This leads to a wider range of climate up and down. The Americans then across Europe and Asia. As a result, agriculture spread nearly twice as fast across Europe and Asia than it did elsewhere. The behavior of farmers, even across hundreds or thousands of years, was constrained by the amount of friction in the environment. By comparison, the climate varies greatly when traveling from north to south. Just imagine how different the weather is in Florida compared to the Canada. You can be the most talented farmer in the world, but it won't help you grow Florida oranges in the Canadian winter. Snow is a poor substitute for soil. In order to spread crops along north-south routes, farmer would needs to find and domesticate new plants whenever the climate change. As a result, agriculture spent 2 or 3 times faster across Asia and Europe than it did up and down the Americas. Over the span of centuries, this small difference had a very big impact, increased food production. Allowed for more rapid population growth with more people, these cultures were able to build stronger armies and were better equipped to develop new technologies. The changes started out small, a crop that spread slightly further, a population that grew slightly faster but compounded into substantial difference over time. The spirit of agriculture provides an example of the third law of behavior change on a global scale. Conventional wisdom holds that motivation is the key to habit change. Maybe you really wanted to actually do it, but the truth is your real motivation is to be lazy and to do what is convenient. And despite what the latest productivity bestseller will tell you, this is a smart strategy, not a dumb one. Energy is a precious, and the brain is weird in to conserve it wherever possible. It is a human nature to follow the law of least effort, which makes which states that when deciding between two similar options, people will naturally gravitate towards the option that requires the least amount of work. For example, expanding your farms to the east where you can grow the same crops rather than heading north where the climate is different. Out of all the possible action we could take, the one that is realized is the one that delivers the most value for the least effort. We are motivated to do what is easy. Every action requires a certain amount of energy. The more energy required, the less likely it is to occur. If your goal is to do 100 push-ups per day, that's a lot of energy in the beginning. Then you are motivated and excited. You can muster the strength to get started, but after a few days, such as massive efforts feels exhausting. Meanwhile, sticking to the habit of doing one push-up per day will require almost no energy to get started, and the less energy a habit requires, the more likely it is to occur. Look at any behavior that fills up much of your life, and you will see that it can be performed with very low levels of motivation. Habits like scrolling on your phones, checking emails, or watching television steals so much your time because they can perform almost without effort. They are the remarkable convenient. In a sense, every habit is just an obstacle to getting what you really want. Dieting is an obstacle to getting fit. Meditation is an obstacle to feeling calm. Generalizing is an obstacle to thinking clearly. You don't actually want the habit itself, but you really want is the outcome the habit delivers. The greater the obstacle that is, the more difficult the habit, the more friction there is between you and your desire and state. This is why it is crucial to make your habits so easy that you will do them even when you don't feel like it. If you can make your good habits more convenient, you will be more likely to follow through on them. But what about all the moments when we seems to do the opposite? If we are also lazy, then how do we explain people accomplishing hard things like raising a child or starting a business or climbing Mount Everest? Certainly, you are capable of doing very hard things. The problem is that someday you feel like doing the hard work and someday you feel like giving in. On the tough day, it is crucial to have as many things working in your favor as possible so that you can overcome the challenges life naturally throw your way. The less friction you face, the easier it is for your stronger self to emerge. The idea behind make it easier is not to only do easy thing. The idea is to make it as easy as possible in the movement to do things that pay off in the long run.